Historically speaking, Chris Sims has been pretty spot on his draft evaluation. Last year we took a look at his quarterback list. Let's take a look at his top 5 wide receivers and see what we think of it.
Jets!
Welcome to Jets Talk. My name's Ryan. I'll be your pilot. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. If you've been here before, welcome back. I love having you here. Boys and girls, I go live every Monday at 8 o'clock for my live call-in show, and then Tuesday we come back with our Talkin' Jets panel, myself, O'Leary, and Greenbean. And don't forget to check us out on draft weekend. All 3 days of the NFL draft streamed right here on Jets Talk 24/7. So we're looking forward to all the reactions and all the excitement that comes with draft day. But let's jump into our topic of the day, and that is Chris Sims' rankings of the wide receivers. Now, this came out about last week, but I want to talk about it, finally have some time to really digest it and break it down. I'm going to give you who his top 5 are, who my top 5 are, and before you watch this, I'd love to see your top 5 and see if my opinions or Chris's opinions change your opinions by the end of the video. So let me know in the comment section down below. But let's move on. His wide receivers, top 5, in this order: Jameson Williams of Alabama, Christian Watson of North Dakota State, Alec Pierce from Cincinnati, Treylon Burks from Arkansas, and Drake London rounding out the top 5 from USC. Now, this is a pretty shocking wide receiver draft ranking because right off the bat, you're looking at this, you're saying, okay, there's no Garrett Wilson, who a lot of people consider wide receiver 1 in this class. There's no Chris Olave. And then Christian Watson, who's like, was sort of thought of as a second, third round pick just before the combine, is all the way up at number 2. So people are kind of all over the place on this kind of ranking. Now, I will agree, Jameson Williams is my number 1 wide receiver, hands down. This dude doesn't tear his ACL, and he's going first, no questions asked. Even after the ACL tear, we're watching him do some training and some I guess what it would be, high legs, I don't remember, plyometric, I don't remember what it's called, but he's doing some workouts that make you feel like he's going to be ready for training camp. And from what it sounds like, the ACL tear, they have some type of brace inside the knee on the ACL. I don't know how it works, I'm not a doctor, but it seems like this guy's going to be ready and raring to go come training camp. So if you can get him at the top of his game, and you're talking like a fast elite wide receiver. Now, he transferred to Alabama this past year, so this was the only year he got to play with the Crimson Tide, and dude, he is no joke. No joke, easily the top wide receiver in this class. At number 2, he's got Christian Watson. Huge guy. Now, my issue with Christian Watson is that a lot of his talent and NFL draft stock is going to be based on projection, because I do really like him. The Jets had him on their Senior Bowl this past Senior Bowl. But the stats are not what you'd expect to see from an elite wide receiver playing in a lesser conference. Especially when you had Trey Lance there previously, you'd think that his numbers would kind of really explode off the map. But that wasn't really the case. But you look at his height, you look at his speed, you look at everything that kind of surrounds him, and you're like, wow, this guy is going to be really, really friggin' good. So I wouldn't put him at number 2. I'd probably have Garrett Wilson in that spot. At number 3, he has Alec Pierce from Cincinnati. Now, this was probably the shocker, I think, for a lot of people, because I have Pierce probably sitting somewhere 6, 7, 8 on my wide receiver list. I really like the guy. I have no problem with him. I wouldn't have thought to put him in the top 5. Out of Cincinnati, so he had Ritter throwing him the ball. The guy had a good year, 884 yards, 8 touchdowns. Now, again, he's probably someone that you're looking at as a projection as well. Top-level competition, is that a concern? I know we've kind of brushed it off in terms of Sauce Gardner and some of the other players on this team, so I don't know if you'd give this the pass either, but at 6'3", height-wise, checks all the boxes here as well. At number 4 with Treylon Burks, I really like Treylon Burks, and he kind of strikes me as like an A.J. Brown / Deebo Samuel type of receiver, and I know people will get mad at me for saying that, but I do like how he's able to run with the ball. He said he wants to model his game after those types of players. So I could see the Jets opting that route because of the success of Deebo Samuel out in San Francisco. Then you look at his RAS scores, and I don't want to make too big of a deal of the RAS scores, but Joe Douglas has never drafted a player in the top 3 rounds with a below 9 grade. Now, he actually did it last year with Elijah Moore an 8.6, but other than that, it's all been above a 9. And Treylon Burks wound up in the sixes. So I really love the player, but I just question if Douglas is going to pull the trigger on that, or if he values it maybe a little higher than some other people do. Treylon Burks at the tail end of the first round, love it. Absolutely have no problem trading it. At number 5, he has Drake London. Now, this is an interesting one because that's a lot further down than I think a lot of people would probably put Drake London. He wound up breaking his ankle after 8 games. The dude had 130 yards in 6 of the 8 games that he played in this year, and he had 7 touchdowns. So this guy is an absolute freak. And he could be the best wide receiver in this class, especially if he winds up running out like a 4.55 or something like that at his pro day. Now, as far as what I would where I would rank him, I would think he'd probably be wide receiver 1 or 2. It's kind of Garrett Wilson and Drake London flip-flopping back and forth here. Now, the concern with London is definitely that he was force-fed the ball. He was the guy. And I don't think you're going to see that type of share of targets directed towards him if he comes to the Jets. I think you're going to see a focus on the tight ends. I think you're going to see a focus on the running back. I think Elijah Moore's going to get a bunch of touches. I think they're going to manufacture touches for Corey Davis and Braxton Berrios as well. So you're probably looking at the height, the red zone targetness of Drake London. Now, he does match up size-wise similarly to a Mike Williams, who the Jets were rumored to be in on if he were to have hit free agency. That's the wide receiver from the Chargers. So maybe that's the type of receiver they're looking at. But then you also see they went in all in on Tyreek Hill, and you could tell they want the speed. So Jameson Williams winds up coming back in the conversation. So there's all these different ways that the Jets can really go. If I'm looking at my top 5, I'm probably going Jameson Williams number 1. I'm going Garrett Wilson number 2, Drake London number 3, Christian Watson number 4, Treylon Burks number 5. I do really, really like all these receivers, and George Pickens is probably one that's a lot of projection as well, because half of his stats wound up coming in his freshman year and not so much in his last 2. So there's kind of which direction would you want to go, and how do you value your picks? Because the Jets sitting at 4, I don't believe that's going to be a wide receiver at all. Would be thoroughly stunned if that was the pick. At number 10, that's when you start getting into the wide receiver conversation. There's a real good shot the Jets are going to have their pick of the litter at number 10, depending on what happens with Atlanta at number 8. But with so many wide receivers that I really like, I don't know if I want to pull the trigger on number 10. Now, it's incredibly, incredibly important that the Jets come away with a number 1 wide receiver in this draft. And I don't want it to seem like I'm ready to sit back at 35 and make the pick there, because the Jets have shown they're willing to give up 2 seconds and a third to get the receiver they covet. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to give up those 3 picks to move up to get a receiver in this draft, but I would try to move in front of the Packers, in front of the Chiefs, someone that just gave up a Tyreek Hill, a Devontae Adams, that really seems like they might be looking for a wide receiver in this draft. So if you could jump in front of them, maybe give up a 2nd-round pick, a 3rd-round pick, maybe a pick next year or something along those lines. I think a 2nd and a 3rd basically gets you up to the early 20s, which is perfect for me. If I can get up to pick 21, 22, 23, somewhere in that ballpark, and get one of these players that's falling down, because I really see maybe 3 receivers going before that point, but then you could see a few at the tail end of the first. So I would take any one of these wide receivers. I like the idea of a trade up back into the tail end of the first round. You guys let me know where you would go on the wide receiver front. Do you like Chris Sims' rankings? Has this changed your opinion on where you thought the wide receivers kind of ranked? Let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, go Jets.